So thank you guys for joining me this evening. My name's Juliette Bryant, for those of you who don't know me. And tonight we're going to be talking about health and well-being. Now, we're all at different stages of our journey. And this is what makes it so exciting and wonderful in life, that we're all at different places, and yet we can all come together and hopefully gain information that's relevant to where we're at. So what I'm talking about, some of you might be like, yeah, I know this, but there'll be other bits that hopefully you can add on. With all of this, no matter where you're at, it doesn't matter. What it's about is about putting one step in front of another and just keeping on moving, because that's really the key. We can get overwhelmed with lots of information and go, oh my God, there's so much for me to do, I don't know where to start. But that's where just one step at a time is the way to do it. And I know some of you have been on lots and lots of my calls before and have worked with me in lots of different ways. So you know the one step at a time, and the approach really does work because, as I said, because we're all at different points, what you do is the bits that really jump out, they're the bits that are relevant for you in this moment. And then maybe 3 months down the line, you've sussed those things, you've really got them working well. And then something will pop into your head and you go, oh, didn't that person say something about that? And the information that you've taken in will filter through on different levels when you're ready. So yeah, a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know much about me. I am a nutritional consultant. I'm a superfood alchemist. I'm a mother to 3 boys, and I live in sunny Suffolk. And my aim really is to connect people into the earth and into themselves, to guide people to understand what their inner wisdom's saying, to really start to listen deeply to their body. Because what's amazing is we actually have all the answers inside us already. And that is something that I think is just so amazing if we choose to listen. And we're not programmed, we're not taught to listen as we grow up. They don't teach us that in school, how to tune into your body and listen to what it's trying to tell you. So a lot of us spend a lot of years relearning that beautiful art of what our bodies are trying to say to us. So it's the start of a new year. It's a time when people really usually focus on health and well-being. And I think this is happening more and more now, especially because health has come into our awareness so much more, because there is a lot of what's the word? There's a lot of focus on unhealth, that's not even a word, being bombarded into our lives. So focusing on our health and what we can do to really get into optimum health, I think is the key. And that's what I really love talking about, is how we can get into optimum health. So we're going to start with some really basic stuff, because I don't know where all of you guys are at. But as I said, we're all at different stages. So when we start looking at our health and well-being, one of the first things that we need to do is we need to look to ditch the processed food. Okay, we need to look to really start eating the way nature intended, straight from the earth. I'm not saying you have to go and dig up your carrot and eat it covered in mud, but we want to eat a more whole food, plant-based diet. This is really optimum for our body. And I'm not saying that everyone has to go vegan, but the more plant-based we can eat, and the more closer to the earth we can eat, the more we can forage, the more we can grow our own food, the more we can eat, fresh fruit and vegetables. This is what we want to do. We want to cut down on the packaging, cut down on the artificial ingredients that are going into food, and eat in a more holistic way. And as I said, wherever you're at, if you're eating a diet that's completely processed, then it's one step at a time. It's like, okay, maybe one day I can cut out all that stuff and I can go back into eating a more connected diet to the earth. Because this isn't just good for us, it's good for the animals, it's good for the environment. It has huge knock-on effects when we eat actual real food. It has a massive impact on us. One of the things that is so important when we are eating real foods, whole foods, when we're eating fruit and vegetables, is they come with their own bacteria and their own enzymes. And this is such an amazing thing. When you're eating fruit and vegetables, they have these microbacteria that help you to break them down on them. So this brings me to my second point, which is such an important one. We need to eat as much organic as we can. This is really, really fundamental because, first of all, like I just mentioned, fruit, vegetables all have these microbacteria on them. But if they're sprayed with chemicals to kill bacteria, then what is that going to do? It's going to kill some of these things that are actually designed to help us break down this food. So this is a really important part of the puzzle that we need to look at, making sure that we're eating as much organic as possible. Now, I know that we can't always afford it. Organic is more expensive. It's definitely coming down in price, and it's definitely getting more accessible than 15 years ago. I remember it was 17 years ago now when my first child was born, and I was obsessed with organic food and only having organic, and it was a lot more expensive then. And so it's definitely come down in price, which is a great thing. But it's about finding where you can buy organic. What is the area that you can focus on the most with that. Why else is this so important? Well, for one, let's take bread. Bread is a great example. If you eat non-organic, or any wheat product, in fact, someone else coming in. If you eat any non-organic wheat product, what they do with wheat now is and they've been doing it for about 5 years, is when the wheat is at its maximum yield, so its highest kind of crop point, they spray that wheat with glyphosate. This is weed killer, Roundup. And why they do that is because it kills the wheat at that maximum yield so that they then can harvest it with the fullest yield that they can possibly get. Now, the problem with this is that glyphosate doesn't have time to wash away. So when you are then consuming that wheat, you are getting large amounts of glyphosate. Now, from my work as a nutritional consultant, I have seen huge amounts of people in the last 5 years getting gluten intolerances. I think a large part of that is because of the glyphosate. So people eat the wheat and their body says, it's the gluten that's the problem. It's the wheat that's the problem, because it's associating the glyphosate with that. So it's all bundled up in one. That's just a theory, but I think that's quite a good theory. It doesn't mean then that if you go to organic bread that you won't have that gluten intolerance, because once you've got it, you have to reset your system. You might be able to go back to eating it later on, but gluten has a whole host of other issues, which we're not going to go into right now, because that is a big subject in itself. But I personally don't eat gluten and haven't in a long time, not even sure how long now, but well over 5 years, and I feel much better for it. A lot of people are walking around with gluten intolerances and they're getting their foggy head, they can't think properly, having digestive issues, and it is because they are actually intolerant to the gluten or the glyphosate. Either one, not really sure, but doesn't really matter because it's all tied into one. So if you are eating wheat, I would recommend you only buy organic where possible, so that you can mitigate this glyphosate poisoning to your system. Why else do we want to have organic? So first of all, as I said, because of the bacteria that is on the fruit and vegetables, we don't want to be losing that bacteria to help us digest it. Second of all, because we don't want these toxins of the pesticides and herbicides going into our body, because they are going to detrimentally affect our health. Thirdly, when we look at the soil, when we're using non-organic foods, what we're finding is that the soil is being depleted of the bacteria it's meant to have. Now, one of the things that I always find is soil, this is my kind of feeling, our soil and our gut is so closely linked. And what state the soil is in is mirrored by what state our guts are in. So if we can work on our guts and on the soil, then we can start to regenerate, because our bacterial balance depends on what we eat. Okay, and if we're eating food that is dead of bacteria, then we are not going to be flourishing the good bacteria in our guts. So then the bad bacteria, the candidas, will take over. Again, the gut is a massive subject, which we are not going to be getting into today. I'll touch on a few points of it, but it is a huge thing in itself. And if someone wants to know more, I have an online course called Healing the Gut, which goes into great detail about gut healing. Okay, so we're getting off the processed foods. We're getting back to eating how Mother Nature intended. We're cutting out the pesticides and the herbicides, and we're going as organic as we can. Now, as I said, there are some things that are more important to be organic than others. So apples, very, very important to be organic. Cucumbers, really important. Celery, lettuce, these are all really important to be organic. Potatoes, so your root vegetables, again, really important. Some things like pineapples, not so important. They've got very thick, hard skins. Avocados, not so important. So it's a balancing act. And there's a list of it's called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And that's a great list. You can just type it in onto your search engine. I was about to say onto Google, but not onto Google, onto your search engine, and find that list, because that says, you know, all of the kind of key ones that are really important to be organic and why. So you can have a look at that. Okay, so we then need to think about the kind of pitfalls when we maybe fall off of the path we want to be on. So often we create this path, especially in the new year. It's like, I'm going to go vegan for January, or I'm going to ditch the processed food, whatever it may be. But then a friend comes around and tempts us with something, and we go, oh, why not? Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but if you're changing how you're eating, if you're really wanting to focus on health and well-being, then you need to set an intention and be clear on why you're doing it. So for me, you know, I'm very clear on how I eat and why I eat, because I don't want to be putting things into my body that are going to lower my energy. Now, if I choose to do that because there's nothing else, and sometimes, you know, that's a choice we all make, then it's a conscious choice instead of just going where the wind pulls you. Does that make sense to everyone? So I think that's a really important thing. One of the things that is so key is to actually look at labels. If you're buying food, do not get sucked into the advertising of something being healthy. So for example, a great one is a kid's drink, Fruit Shoots. Mums buy this, and dads, for their children, thinking this is a good alternative because it's sugar-free. Now, we've been drilled into our heads by advertising that sugar is bad. So people go, I don't want to give my child sugar, so I'm going to give them this sugar-free drink. Now, the problem with that is that you then have lots of other stuff that is not so good in there. So what do you have? Aspartame. So aspartame is an artificial sweetener, and it's got lots of different names just to confuse us all. So aspartame is also known as NutraSweet, Equal, Sugar Twin, and now AminoSweet is the new name for it, because people are getting clued up that aspartame is not a good thing. So AminoSweet sounds much better, doesn't it? Because it sounds like, well, that might be an amino acid, so that might be something natural. So this is kind of what they're doing with the marketing. So if something says sugar-free, to me, I generally go, I don't want to touch that with a barge pole. They are now using stevia to sweeten things, and they're sugar-free, but it's very important that you actually look at the label. Stevia is a great alternative to sugar, because stevia is a plant. I was growing it. Unfortunately, I left it outside. I didn't bring it in when the weather turned cold, so it's died. So I've got to get some new stevia plants. But stevia is beautiful. It's a plant that can grow in the UK, but as I said, you have to bring it inside. And when you eat the leaves, they are super sweet, but there is actually no sugar in them. It tastes like an artificial sweetener, to be honest. I always thought it wasn't right. I was like, I'm not sure about this when I tasted the powder of stevia. And that's why I went out to hunt for the plant, because I wanted to connect with the plant. For me, that's a really important part of things that I'm working with. I want to connect with the actual living plant so I know how it works. And so I did. I got stevia plants, and I crush up stevia and use that in some of my mixes. And it is incredible how sweet it tastes. So a really interesting thing, that's an alternative to using a sugar. There's lots of great alternatives. You know, we want to get off the refined sugar, and we do not want to substitute that refined sugar for artificial sweeteners. Coconut sugar is a great alternative to refined sugar. But this is a really important part of our health and our well-being. It's getting away, as we said, the processed food. And part of that processed food is refined sugar. Any refined food that we are consuming has a detrimental effect to our health. It's known as an anti-nutrient. Because what's happening is when you eat that food, it takes your body minerals and energy to process it, and you don't get anything out of it. So you're actually losing when you eat those certain foods. Okay, so this is a really important thing that we look at when we're having, or hopefully we're not having, processed foods. This is why we don't want things that are refined. White bread, white pasta, white rice isn't a refined food. That's not quite the same. So, but it's your white breads, your white pastas, your white sugar. When they've taken a plant and they've stripped out the nutrients from that plant to create this other version of it, that's when we don't want to be consuming it. Is everyone following me so far? Yeah, great. Okay, I have had a few questions pop up, and I'm not ignoring you. I will get to them in a little bit. So it's really important when we're looking at what we're eating to really understand the games that are being played with our health and well-being by the marketing companies. As I said, like fruit shoots saying sugar-free, and mums buying these for their children thinking it's a good thing, but actually it's got aspartame in. I want to come back to aspartame quickly and tell you why this is not a good thing. Aspartame was approved in 1974, and when it was approved, it was very interesting because both FDA scientists and independent scientists had raised huge concerns about the possible health effects and shortcomings of the scientific studies that had been done, but it was pushed through. Since then, there have been 95 different symptoms that have been linked to aspartame with the FDA. And these range from weight gain to tremors to brain tumors. So a huge range of things. Aspartame is sold to us as a sweetener to help us lose weight, but actually in the long run, you put on more weight from it than you would. Mood disorders, headaches, migraines, all of these things, there's evidence to link to aspartame. So this is something we really do want to avoid. I would take sugar, refined sugar, over aspartame any day. So I always struggle if I see someone drinking a Diet Coke. You know, for me, I would say get a Coke, get a regular Coke. If you've got to have one, don't have the aspartame. So this is something that I feel is a real important thing that we look at. Okay, so we're looking at our health and well-being. We're ditching the processed foods. We're going back to the fruit and vegetables and eating a whole food diet, ideally as plant-based as we can. I'm not saying everyone has to go vegan overnight or be vegan at all, but the more we can be plant-based, even for a few days a week, this has been shown to have huge health implications. We want to go organic. We're ditching the pesticides. We want to look at getting away from clever marketing and looking at labels and making sure we're not putting things like aspartame into our body. we want to make sure that we're drinking good water. Now, water is such an important one. How many people here drink filtered water? Few hands up. I can't see everyone, but a few hands up. Okay, some people don't and some people do. So this is a really important one, that we get a good filter and we filter our water. Why? Well, in tap water, and this is obviously this changes a little bit depending on where you live, but generally in the UK, up to 700 chemicals have been found in tap water. 700 chemicals. And these chemicals, a lot of them are used to clean the water. Because if you live in London, for example, your water has been through 8 cycles of pee and toilet and drinking. It's been through 8 cycles. Not very pleasant, is it? That's not what nature intended. Nature intended us to drink water that has come down off the mountains. You know, it's been cleaned by the rocks. It's got a magnetic charge. It's been oxygenated. It's got this vortex in it. So it's alive. So when we drink it, it's very easy to absorb into our body. It's mineral rich. This is what is the optimum. Now, we don't live in a place where we can have access to that all the time. There is a website called findmyspring.co.uk, which tells you where your local springs are. And this is a really good thing to know, just in general, to know where your local spring is, so that you can use that. Someone said they use a distiller. Distillers are great to an extent. However, it is very important that you are putting the minerals back into the water, because with a distiller, you're getting very clean water, but that's not how we're meant to be having water. It's meant to have nutrients in it. So this is a really important part, that if you do have a distiller, you can put some salt into your water to remineralize it, or you can buy like ionic mineral drops to remineralize the water. There are loads and loads of filters out there, and loads always coming onto the market. We are about to have our water in the UK fluoridated. That's just been passed, I believe, that they're going to be putting fluoride into the water. Now, fluoride has been shown to calcify the pineal gland. And your pineal gland is in here, in the center of your head, and it is linked to our intuition. So when it's calcified, this weakens our intuition. This is not what we want. There are lots of other things that have this effect. You do need to check now with your filters if they filter fluoride, because this is an important part of it. Also chlorine. Chlorine kills bacteria, and chlorine is in the water, but we are bacterial beings. So when we are drinking tap water or filtered water that doesn't filter out the chlorine, this is an important thing. So one of the really simplest things you can do is get a jug of water from your tap and leave it for an hour to off-gas the chlorine. That's like the first step of filtering that you can do. Next thing you can do is you can put some charcoal and shungite into your water, and this is a good basic filter. And then from there you can progress up the rung of different filters that you've got. Someone said, what about boiling water? Well, when you boil water, you change the chemical composition of the water. So you're actually changing the structure of that water. So you're changing the way it's affecting your body. So yes, it's good if you've got nothing else you can do, but you're going to be killing off some of the chemicals, but not all of them. So a good filter is a great thing to have. Someone asked about the Berkey. The Berkey I've always rated as a good filter. There was a recent test done on them with the fluoride filter, but it wasn't filtering out a huge amount. I think it was up to 70%. It's better than nothing, but there are other ones out there that can filter more. I've used a Nikken PyMag filter, which I've used for 17 years now. The same filter unit is still going strong. So I'm really pleased with that purchase. And what I like about that is it's got mineral rocks in it. So the water, it goes through 2 levels of filtration, and then it remineralizes the water. And the way they designed it, Nikken, was to be like as close to nature as possible. So that is actually on my website, that one. There is another really great one called Wellness Water, Nikken is spelled Nikken. If you go onto my website in the shop, then there's the water, and you type on water, you'll see the filter system in there and all the information about that. There's one called Wellness Water, which there's a link to on my website. It's not one of my products, but there's a link you can get to it. And that filter system is amazing. That goes, hooks up to your tap, goes under your sink. Well, they've got two different ones, and you can get a rainwater filter on it. If you wanted to filter rainwater, you've got loads of different cartridges you can choose from as to what kind of filtration you want, which I think is, again, quite cool, because it depends what your desires are and your needs are. So drinking good water is a really important thing. One of the reasons it's so important is because of the hormones in our water as well, filtering it. You know, I've seen in my work the amount of hormone related issues increasing for both men and women, really hugely. And, you know, I've noticed that children are, what's the word I'm looking for? Changing quicker, younger, because of the hormones that are in our environment, especially in our water. So this is something that's really important to look at. Yeah, someone said about showering. There is, it's not on my website. I will put it on there. Nikken do a shower filter, which is great, because again, it remineralizes the water. And then there's a company, oh, I can't remember, I will find links for you. There's a company that do one for the bath, which is just attaches to the tap and filters through it, and that's great. So I've got one of those on my bath, and then we've got the Nikken one on the shower, and I love it. I think it makes a huge difference. You know, you can also in the bath put Epsom salts, and this helps to clean the water as well, so that's something good to do. I recommend everyone goes to epsomsalts.co.uk and buy it in bulk, so you can use lots of it, because Epsom salts are really, really good. You know, I've not washed my hair with shampoo for in March it will be 2 years. So I just use water on my hair, and I notice the effects if I'm using water that's not in my home. If I'm away working, talking at an event, and I'm in a hotel, it really changes. My hair goes more oily, so that's quite an interesting thing. So yeah, I noticed the difference on my hair with that. That's another thing to think about. I'm not saying that you have to go into not using shampoo on your hair, but you know, our skincare products, our health products that we use have a huge impact on our health and well-being. And when we use chemical shampoos, this affects our scalp, but it also goes into our body, because our skin is our most absorbable organ. It's our biggest organ. So everything we put on our skin is going into our body. So if we're eating all organic food, and then we're using your general bog standard hair products or skin products or bath products, then we're going to have you're going to be countering some of that goodness. You know, a lot of hair products have sodium lauryl sulfates in, SLSs, or parabens. We don't want these. These are really not good for our health and well-being. And I was using Faith in Nature, and that's great. And then I was using other ones, and they're all good-ish, but they've all still got things like sodium benzoate in, and they're not brilliant. And that's why I thought, you know what, when the lockdown first happened, I thought, I'm ditching shampoo and I'm just going to go for it. And I personally think my hair's looking really nice. So hopefully it's a good advert for not washing with shampoo for 2 years. Okay, so drinking water, really, really important. If you're drinking water that your body doesn't want to drink, what happens is you'll pee it out really quickly, because your body's like, oh, get this out. So you just need to wee quite a lot. One of the tricks with this is adding salt to your water, and a little pinch of salt. Now, when I talk about salt, this is another thing when it comes to our health and well-being, is we do not want to use table salt. This is not a good thing. There are some amazing salts out there, and table salt is not one of them. So my latest favorite salt is an Icelandic salt, because Iceland has the cleanest water in the world, and you can get beautiful Icelandic salt that is not kiln dried, so it contains all of its nutrients, and it's amazing. So that's my favorite currently. The other one that is very good is the Celtic sea salt, or the raw grey sea salt. Those are both really lovely salts because they're raw, so they've not had their minerals taken away from them. So that's a really good thing to have. So when you're drinking water, one of the keys to help you hydrate at a deeper level is to add a little pinch of salt to this. And it doesn't mean it has to be salty tasting. You don't really notice it, and that helps you to absorb the water at a higher level. You can also get things like alkalizing sticks to help alkalize the water. I used to have a really cool vortex machine which spun the water even, which was amazing because what it was doing, it was changing the molecule size of the water to help you absorb it more. So there's lots of amazing things out there, but you can also just go and find a spring if you've got one nearby you and collect spring water. And that is actually the best thing you can do for your body, because that is, again, coming back to how nature intended. So with everything, you know, one of the keys is to go back to that point of how did nature intend it, and how can I get the closest to that? Adding a slice of lemon to it is a great thing as well, because lemon alkalizes the water as well. One of the things with water that we want to try and do as much as possible, and it's not always possible, is to get away from drinking out of plastic bottles. Because what happens with the plastic bottle is that water, so plastic bottles are blown. They are meant to sit for 1 year and off gas the plastic bottle before they're filled. Now, do you think any water company does that? No. Wouldn't make much good economical sense, would it, to have all of these empty water bottles? So they make the water bottles and then they fill them, so the chemicals off gas into the water. This is a large part of the problem that a lot of people are having with xenoestrogens, these fake estrogens that are affecting our hormonal system, because it comes from the water bottles. So where possible, if you're buying bottled water, buy it in glass. Or get a filter and then get a nice glass bottle or copper bottle that you can fill up and take with you. Sometimes we have to drink water out of plastic bottles, and that's okay. You know, we do our best. And one of the keys is we don't want to beat ourselves up about it, because that's not a useful thing. It's like, okay, sometimes we just have to do that, and then we look to how can I improve what I'm doing to be the most effective for my health. So plastic reusable bottles that are BPA-free are okay. They are, you know, my kids, well, one of my kids has them for school. Water to go is a great, for his first school, great water bottle. It is plastic. It's got a great filter in it. And when we were traveling around India, we all had a water to go water bottle, and you can put river water in there. You can put, you know, tap water from anywhere, and the filter is a really, really good filter. So that's quite a useful thing if you're traveling about, if you want to drink river water. The water to go bottle is really good, and that is a plastic water bottle, but it's BPA free, and it's a strong plastic, so it's not going to leach into the water. BPAs are basically chemicals that have been shown, that are in a lot of water bottles, not all, because they've been shown to be cancerous. So a lot of water bottles will now say BPA free, because it's been quite a big thing that people have become aware of, that these BPAs are cancerous. The other water bottles do have other chemicals to make them. Again, we don't know, you know, they might come out in 5 years and say the BPBs are cancerous, that are in the BPA free ones. We don't really know these things. Glass is safe. We know that. Glass is obviously a bit hard if you've got kids, because it's breakable. Stainless steel, aluminium, not aluminium, stainless steel is not bad. Copper water bottles are great. So there are different options in there for you to look at, but drinking good water is really key. Our body needs to be hydrated, and most people are chronically dehydrated, and this leads to a huge amount of problems. I was quite unwell recently and couldn't eat for a large amount of time and just drank water, and it was actually amazing for my body, because that water was so cleansing and healing. It was good water, and water can when we do water fasts, it can be transformational to our health. I don't recommend everyone just does a water fast, because it is quite intense. Generally, you need some lead into it and support. Some people can do it and just like go for it, and that's great. Sometimes we're forced to by life, and that's the body's way of saying I can't, I just need water, I just need to heal and purify. When we get rid of food, sometimes this is one of our best healers. It's also like urine therapy. This is another very interesting subject for our healing and our well-being, that some people go down that route, but that is again a subject for another day, because that is a huge subject. I've been thinking about getting a friend who's an expert in that on to do a talk with me on urine therapy, so watch this space. Okay, so a few people just joined not that long ago, so I'm just going to recap, because also it will go into everyone's heads more. That's the thing, lots of information is coming your way, so the more we recap, the more it sinks in. So first of all, health and well-being, we're looking at ditching the processed food as much as possible, going organic as much as we can, cutting out the glycophates, and eating as much of a plant-based whole food diet as we can. As I said before, I'm not saying everyone has to go vegan, but the more plant-based you can be, the better for your health and well-being, and also the better for the environment. We're looking at looking at labels and making sure that we're not switching from refined sugar to artificial sweeteners like aspartame, which is also now called amino sweet. So keep your eyes peeled and be aware that there are very clever marketing ploys put in place. So don't just grab something and think it's what it says it is, because it might not be. One really good example of that, another one is I was running a workshop once and I had to run into a supermarket because I forgot the maple syrup, and I just grabbed what looked like maple syrup from the counter and from the shelf, and I went to pay, and it was only £2.69 or something, and I thought that's really cheap. Anyway, I didn't think too much of it, got into the car and looked at it, and it was maple flavored syrup, but the word flavored was very, very small and very hard to see, and there was a big maple leaf on it and it said maple, so you look at it and at first glances you go, oh yeah, maple syrup. Maple syrup is actually a great alternative to sugar. It's a great healthy sweetener to use if you're getting actual maple syrup. What I had bought was high fructose corn syrup with like 2% maple syrup in. My aunt did the same thing. I told her about stevia and how good that was, and she went out and bought something that was a stevia sweetener, and I went around and she said, look at this, and I turned it over, as I do, like, what's in this? And it was aspartame with, again, something like 5% stevia. So there she was thinking she was doing something good, but actually she had fallen, like so many of us do, for the clever marketing of products. So always look at labels. Then we got on to water, and its importance to drink clean water, because there's so many chemicals, 700 chemicals in our water. So drinking clean water is really important from a good filter, so that you know what is going into you. Really, really important. We touched on cleaning products for ourselves. This is a really big subject. For those women out there, makeup, make sure you're using as natural makeup as you can. There are some great companies now that do wonderful things. Tropic does great makeup. There's a company called Pacifica, Dr. Hauschka, Green People. All of these companies do great organic natural makeup, so have a look at those, and get into cutting out the things like the parabens and the SLSs. These are things to look out for that you don't want in your skincare products, your shampoos, your shower gels, all of those things. Dr. Bronner do a great liquid soap, which is natural. It uses essential oils. That's great for in the shower to use like a shower gel, and that's a really good alternative to use. Someone just talked about tampons as well. Yeah, for those women out there, making sure that if you are using sanitary products, they are organic, because otherwise tampons can be filled with fiberglass and also chemicals that you're putting up inside you, which will make you bleed more. Same with sanitary towels. So make sure you are using natural in everything you can. It's like, let's get back to being as natural as we can. Okay. So there's a few things. I've talked about some of these really basic concepts. Now I want to go a little bit deeper with what we can do to really support our health and well-being. One of the things, and as I said, I'm just going to touch on this because it's a huge subject, is looking at our gut health, making sure that we're putting in the good bacteria, making sure that we're keeping those bad bacteria at bay. Someone mentioned earlier, they had a question about purging parasites and heavy metals. This is so important for our immune system and for our general health and well-being. Our mood as well is linked. So many people have heavy metal toxicity in their system, and so getting rid of these heavy metals is really important. There's a great product on my website called Zeotrex, and this is a combination of zeolite, coriander, parsley, chaga mushroom, fulvic minerals, and that's really good to help detox the heavy metals gently. Really a nice thing. I give it to my children and myself on a regular basis, because we are surrounded by heavy metals. You know, there's heavy metal pollutants in the air, fire retardants have them in, amalgam fillings, other things that are put into our systems from a very young age are all filled with heavy metals. So we do need to make sure we're bringing these down on a regular basis to keep that level of things at bay. Getting rid of parasites depends how you do it, depends on if you're pregnant, if you're breastfeeding, how old you are, if you've got any liver problems, because there are different ways to get rid of parasites, and some of them are very strong on the body. You can get a little device called a zapper. I don't know if any of you have heard of zappers. They are amazing. Dr. Hilda Clark came up with the concept of a zapper, and basically there are 2 copper plates, and it's a little device like this, and you put it on you and you turn it on, and what it does is it sends an electric signal into your body that doesn't interrupt you, or you don't really even notice it, but what that electric signal does is fries parasites. So you know, generally you put it on your gut, because generally that's the area that the parasites are in, and you leave it there for 15 minutes every day. You can leave it for longer, and this is really effective at destroying parasites, also fungal conditions, other things like that. So a zapper is a really a great device to get. I've got something called a Healy, which is a little biofrequency machine, and it's just a small thing like this, and you can put it on. It's got little pads that you put on with it, and there's a parasite program in there, which is a bit like a zapper, but it sends the biofrequencies to destroy parasites, and that is an amazing thing. So they've just come out on the Healy with a program for like simulating the zappers, so that's quite interesting. Someone said, does the zapper really work? Also, would it work on cats with tapeworm? I'm not sure if it would work on a cat with a tapeworm, but I can't see why it wouldn't, because it's the same concept on animals as humans, that it's the frequency that the parasites won't like. There was a story on the tapeworm subject of, it was on my detox video that I did with my husband Giles. He's doing a 21-day free journey to well-being thing, so do check out gilesbryant.com, because he's got loads of videos. But there was this guy who basically took some grapefruit seed extracts and had like a whole bottle in one day. Don't know how he managed that in like one go, and then passed a massive tapeworm the next day. didn't know he had it in him. That's the thing. We have parasites in our system that we don't even know about. We could have had them for 30 plus years in there, just stealing the top off our nutrients. So it's really important, if you're doing a parasite cleanse, to contact someone, a healthcare professional like myself, to guide you through it so that you're taking the right things for you. In my Heal the Gut program, I do go into different ways to do this. Diatomaceous earth, for some people works. You have to be careful because it's silica, but if you breathe it in, it can cut your lungs. So in a pill form is the best way to take diatomaceous earth. You know, black walnut hull, wormwood, cloves, all of these are good ways to kill parasites. Cloves are really the only safe way to do it if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, and make clove teas and have it that way. And using a zapper is fine. And if you're pregnant, don't use a zapper, but if you're breastfeeding, a zapper is fine to use. Okay, so when we're looking at really getting into optimum health, for me, there are some key things. Let's say we've got our gut into a good space. We've cleared out the parasites. We've got rid of that excess fungal conditions in our body. And we really want to thrive. We really want to take everything to that next level. Who here wants to take everything to that next level? Yeah? Okay. So what we want to do is we want to start adding things into our diet, into our day, that can be very supportive of achieving that optimum space. Now, everyone is different. Okay, so everyone is going to need slightly different things. What I'm going to share with you is what I do, and what I've guided lots of people to do, because that has been shown to be effective. But there are things that I do that you may go, I don't need that bit, but maybe I need this bit. Getting as alkaline as we can in our diet is really key. You know, going foraging, getting fresh food as much as we can is really, really important. I go outside now and there's still loads of stuff. There's still loads of dandelion leaves. Dandelion leaves are a great source of nutrients. They're also very good for the liver. So having dandelion leaves, even if it's only a few, is a great thing to do. There's yarrow still outside that you can go and harvest. We've got fennel in our garden, and there's loads of fresh new fennel coming up. Fennel is incredible for our digestive system and our overall health. So having fennel on a regular basis is great. If you don't have a garden, get some herbs on your windowsill. I've got a chili inside on my windowsill. It's quite a big chili plant that I grew last year, and it gave me quite a few chilies, and it sat inside and it's flowered again, and it's given me a second round of chilies right now. So I've got fresh chilies now. I love chilies. For me, they are something that makes me feel supercharged. Chilies are very good to kill off bad bacteria, to keep your gut in good health. And what chilies also do is they open up your blood vessels. So if you've got chilies in your food, you don't want to have it really spicy so that it's burning your mouth or burning your gut, but that little bit of spice, it's opening up your blood vessels to allow you to take in more nutrients from the food you're eating. Just like black pepper as well. When we put black pepper on our food, this is working in the same way. It optimizes our nutrients in the food. So for me, there are some really key things. We alkalize, we get as much forage food as we can, fresh food. But I also really want in my life to work with certain foods, and I've been working with them on such a deep level for so long, and I've seen the transformative effect, and that is mushrooms. Now, some of you who have heard me talk know my absolute love and obsession for mushrooms, but they are such potent healers. They really are incredible for ramping up our health and well-being to a whole new level. When I talk about mushrooms, I'm talking about all mushrooms. Your button mushroom is one of the best ways to reduce cholesterol. Eating your common button mushroom. Again, ideally organic is the key. But when we look at things like your reishi or your turkey tails or your chaga mushroom or birch polypore, all of these mushrooms are bracket fungus. So they all grow on trees. They're hard, woody mushrooms. And these are all very high in something called beta-glucans. And beta-glucans are anti-cancerous. So they all work on that level to support the body to kill off cancer cells, which is something we all need on a regular basis. So we're keeping our body in that good space. The medicinal mushrooms all work in slightly different ways, but basically they're supporting the body. They're just really giving it that base of health and well-being. So I've had quite a few issues with my middle son, with his health and well-being, with his mental health. Through lockdown, he developed OCD and anxiety, and it's been a huge challenge. And I'm working with him. He's become very selective over what he eats. So, I'm not able to get a lot of good nutrition in him that way, but he has a big drink that I make him every day that he's happy for me to make him. And in there, I put lots of things. And I've noticed how supportive that is of his health and well-being. And when he doesn't have it, I notice a big difference. So in there, I put the zeolite to clear the heavy metals from his system. I put CBD oil. I put B12, which is a methyl B12, because a lot of people have problems methylating B vitamins. I put, in a separate drink, I put coated silver, which is an incredible product in there. What else do I put in there? I put liquid vitamin D and omega-3 plant-based ones in there. And I put the mushrooms, all of the mushroom drops in there. So he's getting quite a lot in that drink. He also has a smoothie I make him where I put my all you need protein mix in, which has got super greens, vitamin C, all of that stuff. So he's getting it all in different ways, which is great because he won't necessarily get the nutrients he needs from the food he's eating, but he's getting it. I'm managing to sneak it in. And sometimes that's what we've got to do. We've got to be, quite clever and sneak things in different ways. And, one of the things I did was I pulled him out of school as well. So that for me was a really important thing. Someone sent me a message. I just need to read this because I can't read and talk at the same time. Someone else was talking about how COVID and lockdown has caused anxiety in their child. There's a lot of things that you can do for anxiety and mental health. One of the things that I've been giving my son as well is NAC, N-acetylcysteine, and NAC is very good for mental health and anxiety, but it's also very interestingly enough good to dissolve graphene oxide. Which graphene oxide is something that they have in the current jab, and also it's in the tests as well. And graphene oxide is something that conducts electromagnetic frequencies, so not something that we want in our bodies, and we want to detoxify that. They're also now putting graphene oxide on receipts and on counters because graphene oxide supposedly destroys the C word. So we've got lots of graphene oxide around us, so it's creating a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's making us a bit into electromagnetic conductors. So I don't want to be an electromagnetic conductor because electromagnetic stuff is causing a lot of problems. So NAC is a good way to dissolve that. So that's a really good thing. What I've noticed with kids and adults as well is, we have huge amounts of electromagnetic frequencies in our systems that are having a huge impact on our health and well-being. And this is something really important when it comes to our health and well-being that we need to look at, is getting things to protect us from the bombardment from these electromagnetic frequencies. Don't get me wrong, I love having internet, I love having my phones, I love being able to do Zoom calls and all of this, but come 10 o'clock, our internet gets turned off in the house. the Wi-Fi is switched off so that we can sleep in peace. This is a really important one. If we are sleeping with Wi-Fi blasting us or with our phone next to our head, not on airplane mode, we are not allowing our bodies to recharge properly. Because when you have these signals, the electromagnetic signals from a phone or from Wi-Fi, it disrupts our body's natural healing process. So this is a really important thing to be aware of. Who here switches their phone off at night? A few people. Who here switches their Wi-Fi off at night? A few people not. So it's hard, isn't it? Because we've got so used to like the convenience of a phone and all of the things that that brings. I've actually, very interestingly enough, got a new phone, which is a Clear phone, which is a decentralized blockchain privacy phone, which has less EMFs than my old iPhone, which is great. But also it's a privacy phone, so it allows everything to be ring fenced so that WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram can't steal all my data, which is quite a good thing as well. If anyone's interested in those, let me know. Someone said, I wish my family would allow me to switch the Wi-Fi off at night. My family don't get a choice. Luckily, my husband is supportive. My teenage 17-year-old is like, oh, does it have to go off? Oh, I don't have any more data. That's his usual moan about it, but that's just the way it goes, and that's what we've always done, and that's yeah, that's how it is. And people get into it. You just say, this is what's going on, and that's that. And you can put a little timer, you know, one of those timer switches on it, but you will notice a difference in your health and well-being if you start to do that. You can also get things like, where are they? There are things like orgone devices, just can't see any of mine at this precise moment, which you can put near the Wi-Fi, which absorb some of the electromagnetic things from the Wi-Fi. Himalayan rock salt lamps, or just things, they also absorb some of the EMFs given off directly in that location. There are some great products out there. There's a sticker called Omnia, and Omnia have run loads of tests, and I've got Omnia stickers on my devices, on my laptop, on the Wi-Fi, and they are meant to block some of the electromagnetic frequencies that are going around. I also have, I bought for everyone, these scarves. They're like snood type things that you wear around your neck, which have silver in them, because one of the biggest areas that gets affected by EMFs is the thyroid. So wearing these silver lined neck things is quite a useful thing. Again, my teenager won't wear that out in public at all, and he said, oh god, it's so embarrassing, but that's fine. My middle son, very interestingly enough, doesn't take it off, and he is super sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies. Getting blue light glasses is another really good thing if you're staring at a screen a lot, because the blue light really affects our melatonin production and our sleep. So, you know, when it comes to health and well-being, our sleep is of optimum importance, because when we have deep, restful sleep without Wi-Fi, without phones on, this allows our body to go into deep levels of healing. That is when we heal, is when we sleep. So if we're not sleeping in these deep levels, then we're ultimately not doing our bodies any favor. That's why it's recommended 90 minutes before bed, no screen. Now that's not always possible. You know, sometimes I lay in bed and I do some reading and then I am on my phone. You know, we live in a world where our phone is kind of like a second appendage. You know, we use these things so much, but getting discipline around it is really important, especially if you struggle with your sleep. But having some device for your Wi-Fi is really important, especially if you're not going to switch it off. But regardless, having something to help keep your house in balance is good. Oh, where was I? Okay, so I talked about the mushrooms. Mushrooms, interestingly enough as well, help to absorb electromagnetic frequencies. So when we're eating those mushrooms, they're also helping us on that level as well. One of the things that I think is also really important for us, and I'm not promoting people go out and get stoned, but cannabis in the form of maybe CBD or something like that is really, really important for our health. We have something in our body called an endocannabinoid system. Now, this is really interesting because the endocannabinoid system was not discovered until the 90s, okay? But what the endocannabinoid system is the foundation of your house. It underpins the immune system, the nervous system, literally everything runs on this endocannabinoid system. Now, what happens is the richest source of cannabinoids is breast milk. So when we're born, we're meant to feed from our mother's boob and get this breast milk, which will strengthen and support this endocannabinoid system, which is, as I said, the foundations of your house. Now, we're meant to replenish that. Obviously, once we stop breastfeeding, we're meant to eat foods rich in cannabinoids like hemp seeds or hemp leaves or echinacea or cacao. All of these things are rich in cannabinoids, but we don't have a diet generally rich in those things. So making sure that you're having things like hemp seeds is really important to get these cannabinoids in. I've got some great products, my Cbd Hot Chocolate, which is has lots of different cannabinoids in. It has the medicinal mushrooms, it has cacao, there's no refined sugar in it. So this is a really great drink, really easy to use and make, tastes delicious. It's literally a teaspoon in hot water or hot plant milk, and you've got a lovely drink. So that is a great way to get the mushrooms in. The CBD. CBD is a cannabinoid of cannabis. It's not going to make you feel stoned or high or anything like that, but it's relaxing and calming. It works on anxiety and depression, but it also works to support our immune system. So that is a really good thing. There's also one called Awaken, which it has other mushrooms and things like ashwagandha in to have more of a enlivening vibe for in the morning. So those are a few of the things that I think are really important. For me, there are two others. Where are they? Saffron. Can't find the little pot of it I just had, but saffron is something that is super important, I feel, for our health and well-being. Saffron works to strengthen the eyes, it works to strengthen the brain, it works to protect the brain from things like multiple sclerosis, it protects the myelin sheath, it works to help with things like Alzheimer's and dementia, it works to improve your mental cognition. It works on the lungs and the respiratory system as well. So saffron works on so many things. And I started taking it, I've used it in food a lot, but I got it in pill form recently. I've been creating a product I'm working on, which is a saffron pill. And I've been trialing it on myself. And I really noticed a huge difference taking it. I feel a lot sharper and a lot clearer. I really think saffron is of huge importance. There was a study done in, I can't remember the year, but it was by the University of Alberta, and they studied saffron in great detail, and it's incredible the list of things that saffron can help with. So that's a really important thing. The other thing that I think is a really important thing to work with is, there's two things. Dandelion root. Dandelion root helps to release trauma in the brain. So this is a really important thing for us to do. The other thing that I have been working with is microdosing for this exact thing of releasing trauma from the brain and supporting mental health. A lot of studies are starting to come out now about microdosing. Really, really interesting thing. Microdosing is taking psilocybin, which is a magic mushroom, which is a hallucinogenic, but you take it in a very small form so that you don't hallucinate or have any of those effects, but you have beneficial rewiring effects to the brain. So this is a really interesting area of study that is being done. if any of you have seen the film Fantastic Fungi on Netflix, it goes into looking at how psilocybin can work and the studies that are being done on that. So that's really interesting. Someone said saffron is very expensive. It is quite expensive, but you don't need a lot of it to affect and support your brain. Okay, so I've just talked literally non-stop for an hour, so I hope you've taken in some of what I've said. I'm going to open up to some questions now, and then after the questions I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about how you can work with me. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how you can work with me first if you want to do some more work with me, and then we'll go into questions from there. I have, starting on Monday, my mentorship program. It's a brand new program. I've been running mentorship programs for a few years, but this is a brand new one. And we're going to be looking at really connecting to plants, learning about herbs, creating a toolkit of how plants and herbs can work for us using meditation, mudras, mantras, to really journey over 12 weeks into our health and well-being and how we can really ramp that up. There is one place left on it, and it's normally £2,000 for these 12 weeks, which also includes a one-to-one 90-minute session with me that includes your hair going off to Germany to be analysed for heavy metals, viruses, underlying viruses and things like that as well. Today, for the next 24 hours, it's £1,200. So that's a special offer for you guys, and it can be paid in instalments of up to 9 months. So I know that not everyone has £1,200 sitting around in their bank account, so I want to make it as accessible for people as possible. So if you are interested and you want to have a chat with me, then we can arrange a call tomorrow or Friday, and we can go into it in more detail, and I can tell you exactly what's involved. But it's a really exciting program. I'm really pleased to be running it, and the aim of it is to connect people in to their inner wisdom so that they can start to become their own guide and teacher. And it's about giving you guys a toolkit so that you've got the things to be able to understand what your body is trying to communicate with you. So that's one way you can work with me. I also have a monthly membership program, which you get for free whilst you're on the mentorship. And on that membership, every month I do a workshop and a talk, and you get recipes, a private Telegram group for me to support you in, and you get access to a huge...
You give a tiny bit of food.
Backlog, a huge database of past talks and workshops and recipes that I have done. So that is £33 a month, or you can join for a year for £200. So then you get a whole year of it for that. So those are a few things. I've got lots of free recipes and articles on my website, so you can tap into that. You can sign up to my newsletter as well, so you can find out more about what I'm doing. I do go into people's homes as well and run workshops in your homes, or if you've got a healing centre and you want me to come and do a workshop specifically on anything to do with health and well-being, then I can come and do that as well. So a little bit about how I work. I also do one-to-one consultations as well. So does anyone have any questions? If you do, you can unmute yourself, or you can type it in the chat box if you don't want to talk.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Where's the best place to get organic food? Deliveries to your home, or is it best to go to your local farm shop? They may not be organic, but they're local produce. Great question.
Riverfords is good. They deliver all over the country. If you live near me, there is a great guy from Moynes Park Organics, Phil Misen, who does organic food, which he grows and delivers within a 5-mile radius. Obviously you have to live near me for that to work, but Riverfords is generally good. Abel and Cole are another one that are good. If you've got a local farm shop, go in and say, look, I'd really like some more organic produce, can you get it in? And they usually will be able to. yeah, you can also do a search and type in, you know, organic growers and then your area. You might find some small organic grower like the guy Phil who runs Moynes Park Organic. He's not big, he's small, and we met him at a local farmers market, and you know, that was amazing, because it was like, oh my gosh, this guy's growing organically locally. Mm-hmm. Some people can't say they're growing organically because there's a huge fee. It's like I don't put the organic label on my products because I'd have to pay £3,000 a year for that. It's not worth it just for it to say organic. So some people are growing organically, but they don't say organic, but they might say pesticide free growing.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Someone asked a question, what is the mushroom oil? I'm not sure which mushroom oil you're talking about. The mushrooms that I was talking about, this is a powder. It's mushroom complex 6 that I make, which has chaga, cordyceps, shiitake, reishi, lion's mane, and maitake. And I also do this in pill form as well. And that is a great thing. But I put the mushrooms in pretty much every one of my products. I've got a range of tinctures. Hang on, let me show you guys. I love these. I made these recently. And yeah, there's Adapt, which is for stress support. So that's a tincture for stress support, and that's got tulsi, ashwagandha, reishi, mimosa, and rhodiola. There's Boost, which is immune support. I'm not going to read them all, what's in them, because I'll be here all night. There's Balance, which is hormone support. Restore, which is a new one, which is for post-viral recovery. So, you know, when you've had a virus and you're tired and you can't get over it, this one's really good for that. Breathe, which is for respiratory support. So if you've got a bad cough, this helps with that. And Protect, which is to help with spike protein shedding and metabolism of spike proteins. So there is a pack on my website that says respiratory support, which is the Breathe, the Restore, the Protect, and the Boost. And that's really good if you've had a kind of flu-like virus, to help you either through that or in the recovery of that. And yes, I make all these products myself. Yeah, made with lots of love. Any other questions? Unmute yourself if there are. Oh, someone said, do you have a good source of NAC? It's very hard to get hold of NAC. It was banned by the FDA. At the same time, it came out that you would kill off graphene oxide. It dissolves graphene oxide. It was then banned. There's a company called Now that do an NAC supplement, which I think is quite a good one. I've been getting that one. I'd recommend stocking up on it as well if you're using it.
Is it just called Now?
Yeah, if you type in Now and NAC, in capitals, NAC, because otherwise other things come up for NAC, then you should be able to find it. It should be about £26 to £30 approximately.
I've got some sea buckthorn berries here. These are very good, grown on our land.
Lovely. Sea buckthorn is wonderful. I love sea buckthorn.
Great stuff.
Amazing. Sea buckthorn is I don't know if you guys can see. Hang on, let me just pin you for a moment. There we go. Can you guys see those lovely berries? They are super rich in vitamin C, omega-7, high in antioxidants. Beautiful. I use sea buckthorn in my All You Need protein powder. It's in there, and it's in a few of my other products because it is amazing, and you can make nice teas with it. Lovely, thank you. Okay, there we go. There's so many, you know, we're really lucky. There are so many incredible plants out there for us to work with, so many amazing things. And I say this a lot, but usually the answer is right on our doorstep for the things we need. So, you know, take time to look around you and look outside and see what's growing there. because quite often it will be what you need. Are there any other questions that people have?
One more. Grapefruit seed extract. Do you take that with the parasite cleanse, or can you take it every day, or does it connect with the parasite cleanse?
So it can connect with the parasite cleanse, or you can take it every day, a few drops in water. It cleans water as well. When we went traveling, we would have grapefruit seed extract. I put a couple of drops in every glass of water just to make sure it killed any bugs that were in there. It's also known as citricidal. You can't take grapefruit seed extract on certain medication, so always cross-reference. If you are on medication, always cross-reference to make sure that there's no contraindications, because grapefruit actually has quite a few contraindications with medications, so that's one to always look at.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, if there are no other questions, hopefully I haven't fried all your brains with all the information. Hopefully you were able to absorb it and it's all sinking in and you're just mulling it over. If you do have any questions that come up, you can find me on Telegram. I don't know how many of you are on my Telegram group, but if you are on Telegram, let me just tell you what it is, because I can never remember. Then it's a great platform. If you go in and type in Juliet Bryant 27, then you can find me on there and you can ask me any questions in my group, my channel on there. I am also on Facebook, so you can send me questions there. Someone did just have one more question. They said, what dose of NAC? 600 milligrams is the ideal dose that you want to be having. Lovely. Well, thank you guys all for joining me this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been lovely being with you all. And if you do want any information, other information about how to work with me more, then just let me know, send me a message. And lots of love to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the recording I will send out to you guys as well, so you'll have that probably tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.